of the Maschinen Krieger Super Jerry project, and right now we're finishing up the electronics portion of it, and just jumping in. I got 3 people that were watching before. I was going to let it loop around for that countdown, but I didn't need to because I got some watchers right away. So we're going to head on in and get down to the board here and see where we're at. Last week, I was installing, securing the fiber optics, putting the LEDs in, and kind of getting an idea of how that was going to go, where everything's going to fit. And then, of course, I had to trim the fiber optics down, and then I had some a little issue with the fibers being, they were jumping out of I had them kind of taped in place, and they didn't quite secure that way. So I went ahead and glued those with, hey, what's up? How's it going? With questions is in the room. Anyway, so I ended up using canopy glue, which is what I've done before, and I'd forgotten it because it's been a little while since I used fiber optics. So I forgot that part, but by adding a little bit of that glue on that tube, I was able to secure those, keep those nice and tight, and they don't affect the way the fibers operate. They don't. They still glow just very nicely. So with that, Dirt Diggler, what's going on? I don't know. Have you ever been in my stream before? If you have, I'm sorry if I don't remember, but I think this is your first time, right? Anyway, I'm going to get down to the bench here. We're going to do a quick look down, and this is where we're at. I'll just zoom in here. So what I have, let me flip this over real quick. So I painted this in a black primer now because I'm going to use a muddled type, similar to aircraft paint scheme, where I think this time I'm going to use a stencil, but it's going to be a random pattern of white on top of this, and then when I shoot the final color over the top of it, it'll give that kind of a muddled finish. It's actually going to be this color here that you see on the back vent, and that's going to be throughout, but in order for me to do that, I have to paint everything black first, and then I will. It's kind of like a pre-shade too, but we'll go over it with some white, and I have a couple of stencils, like breakup stencils, that'll kind of give a random pattern to that, and then I'll go over it, shoot the final color over the top of that, and hopefully you'll see those color variances come through. That's the plan. I've done it before, so it should be fine. I just not used it with this color, but it should be good with black underneath it. It should show through, especially the white. The white will kind of lighten it up. Anyway, so last week, none of this was together. I just had the fiber optics in the cockpit, kind of had everything loosely put together. I had it taped here, and I had to deal with this seam across the top. That's all done. The seam's completely handled. And then, of course, I glued the front on. We've got one LED behind this here, which is still taped off because I want to make sure that stays nice and clean. One of the other issues I've come across just recently, I was going to button up the bottom tonight and then try to glue on the last piece of glass here. But one of the things I noticed tonight while I was looking at it, the fit of it, when I placed it in where it's supposed to go, there was a gap along the bottom front edge here. So that's something I'm going to have to deal with. So I may not glue this on tonight, only because I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. I might put some thin strip on the actual glass piece and then fit it. But when it sits on here, and I'm going to try not to drop it inside, when it sits on here, there's a gap on the lower edge of this glass between that and the, what you guys call a hood, whatever hood panel here. So I'm going to have to fix that gap before I secure that in place. So that may not get done tonight. But what we have done is I've got all the wiring in. I've got my resistors that are tucked in kind of nicely underneath these two white panels here and here. There's some nice new bamboo chopsticks or tweezers, I should say. that work really well with magnets. I didn't have a set of these. I found somebody actually recommended me a set in our MFAM morning chat group, and it came in a set of 3. I picked the best set out of here, but you can pick up magnets without them sticking, which is very nice, obviously. And for what I'm doing here, I need to be able to install a magnet and retrieve it without having to worry about it sticking to my tweezers. So I've got all of my positive leads now attached here. Everything's parallel down to 1 lead. The ground side has gone through a magnetic reed switch, and you can kind of see the reed switch right in the middle there. I zoom in. Okay, there's the reed switch, dead center. So what I did with the leads on that, there's 2 leads that come off. And a reed switch, these are normally open reed switches. So essentially what this is, a normally open reed switch is open. When you apply magnet to it, it closes and completes the circuit. So it had some leads sticking out of that. I bent those in a 90-degree kind of U shape. Then I put a hook on each end of the of those leads there, so I could solder my wires easily enough. And then with that flat, the flat lead, part of that lead coming out, I hot glued that down to the model. So that's how it's secured in the back there. If I pull this out of the way, it makes it a little bit easier to see. Let's see what that focuses. So yeah, so what I can do is I can demonstrate how this works. If you've never used a magnetic reed switch, they have normally closed switches. This is a normally open switch, which means that in its rest position, it's open. And I'm just applying magnets to it to complete the circuit. And then that's what will turn the lights on. So when I have all this tucked in, I'll have my little battery holder here. This will be soldered to my leads in the end. This will be, and then it will tuck inside. So then all I got to do is pop a magnet on there and turn the lights on. And then when I'm ready to retrieve it, I can just, take another magnet and it'll pull that magnet right off. Because basically, these magnets will stick right to the reed switch, and that's just how you turn them on or off. When you're ready to pull them back, you just grab a strong magnet and boom, it'll pull that magnet right off, and you're good to go. So I'm just going to hold this real quick, and I'll show you how this works. So with the battery supply attached, there's no power. But as soon as I bring a magnet over toward that reed switch, it turns on and off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a smaller magnet like this, and that one I can just place right on the reed switch. That will turn the lights on, and then it'll turn them off when I take it off. So what I've got to do now tonight, we'll see how far I get here, is when I use this bottom panel, I'm going to feed the wires through. I've got to glue this down in place because I've got my little hatch here. What's up, Julius? So this is my little hatch here that closes off my access door, and there's another magnet here. So when
Did you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
We can set it up so you can literally go directly back into all of the
I think we're live right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have fun.
All right, boys and girls. Is everybody back in here? Julia says I must have another power outage. No, didn't have a power outage. I just had an actual freaking my computer locked up. I don't know why. He's back. Yeah, let me set up. I'm getting the camera going again. Sorry, guys. I don't know what the hell happened here. Let me bring up my... So I don't know where we left off, but we're going to go back down here. I guess we'll start over. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I saw my feed go down, and it just seized up on me, and sorry about that. So I had to reboot the computer, clear my cache, and start over. So, what did you guys miss? What did we talk about last? Tell me what we're talking about, and I'll start over. Sorry about that. Totally sorry about that. Technical difficulties. It happens from time to time, but we'll just go a little longer tonight. So I installed a reed switch on this. Is that what we guys are hearing right now? Is that what we left off? Did you guys see how the reed switch works? I think you guys saw that. Let me know what's going on in the chat, and I can try to get start over where I left off. You guys hear me okay? Let me know if you can hear me too. I think I've got everything up and running again. So, smaller magnet and placing them. Okay, so that's where we're at. Well, good. You heard most of that. So, yeah, I can put a smaller magnet on the reed switch, and that will activate it. What I'm going to try to do tonight is install this lower panel. Then I've got my little access hatch here, which goes on that, which also has a magnet on it. And when we one thing I noticed about the glass piece, I was going to try to install this front glass piece tonight, but there is a gap on the bottom, so I'm going to have to figure out how to fill that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. Thanks, Julius. I appreciate the input. 5 by 5. So when last we left, I'm going to put this bottom panel on. I'm going to feed the wires through. I may end up just tucking them inside until I can get some glue down to glue this in, because this is a fairly complicated step. There's a lot of surfaces that have to be lined up, and it's a pretty tight fit for this. So, we saw the switch working. Okay, cool. Yeah, we hear you. Thanks, everybody. Sorry about the glitch there. I have no idea when it went down. I was talking and looking at the kit in front of me, and I looked up and everything was seized up. The feed was down. I couldn't even move the mouse. It was just like I had to hard stop the computer just to get it back. And it looks like everything is up and running. So first thing I'm going to do is just feed these through here. I'll use my tweezers, which are over here. Just going to feed these wires through because I've got to kind of tuck everything. Tuck this cover down. Kind of fits tightly in here. And you'll see once I get it, there we go. Once I get it lined up, it'll just kind of pop in place. But it's a little tricky. There we go. One side in. Nothing's in the way, right? No, none of my wires are in the way. And this was a little tricky. I test fitted it last night, and it was still, there we go. It's just a little bit, it's like really precise. It's almost, this is probably the best fitting part of the whole kit. Everything else has kind of been a little wonky, but it'll take a little extra time here. Oh, come on now. I did this last night and everything worked just fine. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Once it pops in, it's like it's in, so there we go. So there's going to be some seams here. I've got a fairly large seam here that I'm going to have to deal with. There's a couple of pieces that are actually mounted in these two spots. You can see the little cutouts with the black paint. It's a little hard to see, but there's going to be some round little nodules that are going to be installed here and here, so I don't have to deal with that. But I still basically got this seam here, and pretty much all the way down the sides. These are a little bit easier to hide because they're right on the edge. Now my wires are here. Now later on I can actually solder on my battery connector. And now you can see where that reed switch is right down there, tucked in underneath. It's kind of like right underneath the this crossbar here. So it'll be a little bit of a challenge to install that magnet when I'm going to turn them on, but that's okay. I was trying to put that reed switch in a place that would kind of be unobtrusive and out of the way, but still be accessible. So that was really my best solution. There was really nothing else to attach it to. But you can see it tucked up underneath that. When I angle it just right, you can see that there. And yeah. So these will all, of course, I can even make these probably a little bit shorter now that I've got the lead sticking out here. These are all parallel together. I don't need to have them this long. I may end up trimming them back a little bit, as well as the ground, as long as I got enough that I can pull the battery out, access it, and put it back in without, I don't want to cut them too short, because then it just becomes troublesome. And one of the things I did pick up fairly recently, and where are they? Oh, here they are. I've got these really nice set of wire strippers. These are for really small gauge wires, and this will go down to 30, or actually 25 gauge, which is really tiny. I'm using 32, so we get 25, 32, 40, 50, 60, and 80. Actually 30, 28, 26, 24, and 22, and 20 gauge. So pretty small set. It came in a pair. I bought these again on, I think I got them on Amazon, but it came in a set of 2. This is the smaller set and it works really well with my 32 gauge wire that I have about here and here. Speaking of that, I still have the Amazon page up, the Amazon shop. If anybody's interested in it, the link is in the description. Eventually I'm going to trim that list of parts of things down, because there's a lot of items there. Some of them may not be available, or you have to look at buying options like that. So I'm in the process of slimming that down, finding new items to put on there, and also get rid of some stuff that may not be available anymore. And one of those is the 32 gauge wire. I'm kind of sad about that, because this has been really good wire. I've used it on all sorts of LED projects up till now. Anyway, I ordered some new wire on AliExpress, and AliExpress is a company out of China, and I'm kind of starting to get used to. I've bought stuff from them one time before, and they're actually pretty good. They really overdo it when it comes to communication. Like, they will just send you emails like, we're sending your order to boxing, and now we're packaging it, and now we're shipping it. I mean, it's like overkill, but it's kind of nice in a way, because they're no shortage of communication with them at all. So anyway, now that we got this on here, let me start the gluing process. I just want to make sure all these edges, I may have to hold this one down. It's a little bit of a fit issue. It's just kind of popping up a little bit. And that's not necessarily the model. This might be the way I assembled everything. So I might have to hold this one, but I'm just going to start putting some glue down. I like the peanut M&Ms. Yeah, I know. Was that you that asked me about them? Like, what am I going to do with peanut M&Ms and scale mullet? I just threw that in there. I figured, you know what? Everybody needs a little bit of chocolate every now and then, So why not? All right, I think I'll start with the front and work my way back, because it seems like the back fits really well. It's just kind of like up here. There's a little bit of a fit issue, but that's, again, I can sand that down and make these edges fit really nicely. So I'm just going to take some thin cement and just start going. And once I get those seams fixed, then I can go back over it again with primer and make sure that everything is sealed up nicely and looks nice. There's an intentional seam here on this front cap that goes on, so I'm not worried about that, because that is built into the model. There's going to be a line there. I do want these to kind of blend, so I'm going to work on those and probably have to do some sanding and reshoot this with primer and make sure that those seams are addressed before I start paint. What's up, James? James is in. Joke's on you. M&M's better become top seller. Hey, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's all good. I thought it would be kind of funny to see what people's reaction would be to finding that in the list there. It just goes to show a few people have actually taken the time to look through what's in there. It's not just me talking about it. So even though this is a fairly large seam, at least it's on the underside of the model, but I will be displaying this. In fact, I've got a 5 by 5 inch block of wood. I'll grab that in a second as soon as I can take my hands off this. I'm kind of holding it in place for now. Frankly, I love peanut M. Well, good. I'm glad you do. I do too. I kind of go back and forth though. I like both plain and I like peanut. But you know what I've really started to fall in love with is the peanut butter ones. They're really, really good. As far as the M&M one, M&M is concerned. It's good to see you, James. I'm glad you came in tonight, even though I had some technical issues earlier. I'm glad I got some of my local Washington State boys in here hanging out tonight. Well, if all goes as planned, I'm going to hold this here in place, make sure that glue sets. This side is actually really, really good. This is the only one that has a little bit of an alignment issue, so I'm keeping my fingers pressed on that to make sure it stays. And then once I'm convinced that it's nice and glued, then I will move on to the next step, which I think is going to be, I may pull out the soldering iron. I know I'm not going to be able to fix the glass issue tonight. That was something I was unexpected. I was expecting just to glue that on there. And then I started fitting it, and I realized that there was a gap that needs to be addressed. I just can't glue it on there. So I've got these other side glass windows covered up with tape. Those have already been glued in, but I obviously couldn't spray my primer over this without, with the windows intact. But because I had to address the seam in the center here, as well as, where these two pieces come together. So I had to make sure this was all good. That's why I couldn't put that glass piece in until now. Now that this has been addressed, the seam is perfect. Now I can do that, but this looks pretty good. It looks like my glue is holding. I don't need to keep my fingers on it anymore. There will be some sanding and maybe a little bit of gap fixing to do with some CA glue or some surfacer. If I can get away with it, I'll use some 500 surfacer and do that. But it seems that this is looking really nice. Before I paint anything, now there's one little bit of tape here that is lifted, and I want to make sure that I do not get any paint underneath it. Otherwise, it'll go on glass. So I'm just going to take the second here to cut a piece of tape off. Place this on there. So how was everybody's New Year's? Last week we had Christmas. Talked about that a little bit. I did some show and tell on some stuff I got for Christmas. My New Year's was amazing. I got an opportunity. My stepson surprised me with NHL the Winter Classic ticket. So we got to go see the Winter Classic in Seattle and watch the outdoor game and watch the Kraken absolutely murder the Vegas Knights, which was awesome to see. And plus, just being there live was unreal. It was great. We had great seats. All right, I'm gonna let that sit for a bit. So, anybody else have anything exciting go on during New Year's? All right. I'm going to test this one more time. But now that I've got that on there, I'm going to take my little battery and I'm just going to place it on that reed switch. It's basically stuck right on there. I'm just going to make sure my lights come on. What I might do too is now that I have it on here, I can flip it over and show everybody, make sure lights are working good. Now that magnet's on there, I'm going to take the lights down a little bit, flip this over. Now we can look into the cockpit. See all the lights there on that side, on the front. And then see on this side. Oh, there we go. All the way back. Yeah, it's once I pull the tape off, and then I've got a couple back here. I've got one on the top of the engine bay here. There's one under this grill in the back. But may not actually see those. I'll see that with once I get the shield on and everything. Not so much for New Year's, but Ryan's top behind surprised me for Christmas. That's awesome. Yeah, I miss that guy. I haven't seen him since he got deployed to Japan. I don't think so. It would be good to see him again, I'm sure. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, a little bit of gap fix that I need to do, but for the most part, this is a pretty decent fit. So I guess what I'm going to do next then is, since I can't really do anything with the glass, I'll see if I can, I don't know if I can show this to you or not. It may fall inside, and it's kind of, if it does fall inside, well, I'm gonna skip that, because last time I had the bottom off and I was able to get the glass out. If it falls inside, it's kind of a pain to get out. But anyway, there's a gap on the bottom. These three sides fit great. It's just right along this bottom front edge that there's a gap. So I'm going to have to apply some plastic strip there probably to fix that. Welcome to drop by. I know. Remember, 2023 was a shit year. It was a crap year for us. I mean, it was bad. I don't need to rehash. I've already talked about what happened the last year with family and all that. It was rough. A little bit of a gap here. I'm gonna put some more glue on here. Still got a little bit of a gap issue right here. Just gonna hold this for a few more minutes here to make sure that grabs hold. Then we'll move on. So inside there, you can see where the two LEDs are tucked in, nice and tight, and as low as they can be. So allowing me to have room for this. The battery holder's got to be able to fit in on top of that. I'll get that magnet back out real quick. There we go. Just like that, simple. Let's get a strong magnet. It'll pull the other one right back off. But once I get that, the other two solders done, then I can make sure that my hatch closes up. This is the piece on the bottom. There's a magnet there that will click on and seal all that up. A little bit hard to see with the black paint, but I'm going, like I said earlier, I think in the beginning of the broadcast before I lost signal, I'm going to use a stencil to kind of put a muddled pattern on here, almost like an aircraft type weathering technique. And then I'm going to use Mr. Color number 60, which is RLM 02 gray. It's kind of got a greenish tone to it a little bit. I thought it looked nice. You can see a little bit of that here. It's going to be this color. But that will be the main color of the body and everything. So hopefully once I get that muddled pattern on there, I can lightly do a couple light coats of that green and see what it's going to look like. There is one piece of fiber optic too in the front of this nozzle here in red, which I did not show you. And of course then I've got the amber flickering LED in the camera up here. So yeah, a little bit of touch-ups, a little bit of thing, a couple of things to keep going forward here. I had to use some CA glue to fill this. I originally filled it, or thought I had filled it enough with glue, but when I did my seam check, there was still a gap there, so I had to fill it with some CA, sand it down again, and reshoot it. I did that all this week while we were away, and then hopefully by next week I'll have all these seams fixed, and we'll be able to start doing some real paint work. So we'll see what next week's stream is going to be like. I'm not sure. Depends on where I'm at. I've still got to prime the legs and paint all of them. There's nothing on those, so I got to figure that out. Do all that as well. Then I've also got the figure. What I can do, let me back up here. I'll just go to a little bit further away. I'll bring in that block of wood. I'll show you what that would look like. So I found this on Amazon. Pretty much find anything on Amazon. Boom. So this is just a 5-inch by 5-inch laminated block of wood. But because the legs on this sit about 34 inches apart, if you look at where the body sits, roughly about that distance right there. So yeah, I can pretty much have the kit sit here. I'm going to have a guy, the mechanic sitting and kind of squatting down, sitting on either a gas can or something like that in between the legs here. But I think that's what we're going to call this. We're going to call this one the mechanic. And so yeah, pretty nice block of wood. It did come in with a little bit of a ding on it, which I can just either match all that by sanding the other sides down and kind of round those corners off. But other than that, it showed up fairly unscratched. It's not bad. Anywho, so I think what I will do next is I'm going to trim down these. Let's see, let me flip this around. I'm going to zoom back in here. You guys like this view better right now, or you want to go close view? We'll go close. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these red leads back, take off maybe about 3/4 of an inch. I just need to shorten them up a little bit so I can still tuck them in, but I don't need that much exposed wire. It just makes more they have to kind of tuck in there and get out of the way. So I'm thinking right about here. If I cut them, I'll cut them back about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch off. Go right there. All right, then I'm going to take each one of these and strip it. I said these are really great. I was doing this stripping these by hand because I didn't have a pair of strippers. This is 32 gauge wire, but it's also multi-strand wire. It's not single solid core wire, so it's kind of hard to strip them without cutting some of the strands underneath. Now, granted, LEDs don't require very much voltage. This wiring is great for low voltage applications. But I was having trouble, being able to trim it down and not accidentally cut some of those strands. It's about 7 or 8 strands, but 32 gauge, pretty small gauge. So I guess what I'm going to do then is we're going to, let's see, I wasn't planning on this, but because I can't really do anything with the canopy glass, I'm going to cut this back as well, and we'll see if I can't solder that battery holder in place tonight. I'm going to bust out the soldering iron. All right. So once again, I'm going to take these 3 leads and twist them together. These are all parallel to one. And so on the ground side, I went through the reed switch, so that's why there's only a single wire on the ground side here, because all the other ones were twisted together kind of like this, and then soldered to that one side of the reed switch. All right, so first things first, I'm going to bring up the soldering iron on the side here and turn it up. Get it heating up. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to wet this sponge, and I will be right back in 2 seconds. All right. Okay, so my soldering iron's heating up. I've got my wet sponge there. For cleaning purposes now, I'm going to utilize my pair of helping hands here in some way, because this battery holder is labeled positive and negative. So I've got 2 leads. Either one I can solder to for the positive lead. Negative is just the single one in the center. So I'm going to take this twisted lead here, and I'm going to, what I typically like to do is, after twisting them together, is to kind of create a little hook so I can wrap it around this little, because these leads are pretty tiny. They're not that long, so I need to make sure I can just get a good solder joint on there. So what I like to do is either take my tweezers like this, or even a small pair of needle nose, and I'll just bend a little hook in that wire. So then when I bring it up here, let's see how we're going to hold this. I can just place it on one of those leads and kind of wrap it around, and then just solder it in place. So this is going to be a little bit of a challenge here to get this set right, but I'll figure it out. I'll use oops, almost knocked my microphone over. So I'm just using my helping hands here to hold that battery holder, and then I'm going to move it into place. Trying to get my soldering angle here just right. There we go. A little bit better. Let's see if I wrap that around right there. Back that up a little bit. Okay. So I need to get my ground lead out of the way. Ground lead's in the way. All right. Let's try this again. Okay. I've got that lead there in a spot now that's going to kind of keep it in the middle. So let me make sure my soldering irons, I know it's still heating up, it takes a little while, but I've got a big roll of, this is MG chemical, it's a SN60 PV40 solder. It's 22 gauge with flux, a little bit of flux. But yeah, I used a little roll of it, but I used so much of it that I just ended up buying this big one. Works out nicely. So, give me a sec here. I'm going to test this, see if my solder chip's hot enough yet. Not quite. It's getting there. I can see it slowly heating up. Give it a couple more minutes. Then we'll try to hit this with some solder. The other day I was soldering something. I was actually soldering, I think I was soldering the reed switch, and I touched the model here with the soldering iron, so I had to kind of sand that down. That's what this white spot of no primer is. It's because I got my hot iron on there. And that didn't help. Okay, let's check it one more time here. Not quite. No, maybe. It's getting there. So we're just going to hit this, see if I can get some solder to flow. There we go. Almost. There we go. Hit that one more time just to make sure. I think we're good. It's not a perfect solder, but hey, it is what it is. Okay, so let me switch places here. Now that I've got my positive lead, I've got to get this negative lead ready. And we'll do the same thing. And then our last final test will be plug a battery in and make sure it lights up after we've got the battery, obviously the magnet in there. So I'm going to take my magnet and move it. You know what? Let's see. Yeah, we'll just stick it on there. Okay. Let's see if I can get a better angle here. All right, so take this, clamp it on there. There we go. That's a little bit better. And I got my oops, almost put it on the wrong one. Remember, the two positive leads are in that one spot. Let's see here. All right, I got to redo this. Oh, not going to work. Give me 1 sec here. I'm trying to get these arms in a place that'll work the way I need them to. Okay. So now, there we go. I think that's better. Not quite. I need to grab this side because there's my ground. Okay. So once I get this, I'm going to put a little hook in here so I can get my lead. All right. Just going to swivel this around so I can get a better soldering angle here, but I think I've got it. As long as it stays put. You know, my solder iron should be plenty hot now. I'm just going to put a little bit on the end here, and then once this, flows, gets hot enough, it'll flow in there, and there we go. Okay, moment of truth. Let me turn this off. Let me unhook this. So now the battery is, our battery holder is soldered in place. So now I should be able to take my battery and install it. Okay, there we go. Obviously no power because we don't have our magnet. So I'm going to take everything is sticking to my magnets. I got some big, some large 10 millimeter magnets that I use for, I even use them for finding like a stud finder. There we go. As soon as I hooked up the magnet, all my lights came on. So there's inside. Let's see. Get a little look there. There we go. Both sides. In the front, there's a red right there, and my flicker one. Good to go. Good to go, boys and girls. Success. So again, to retrieve that magnet very easily, just take a big one close by, pop it in there, and it'll suck that magnet right out. Makes it super easy. Now, the other big moment of truth is whether or not this is going to fit inside this hole. Now, I thought I cut a big enough hole, and we're going to find out right now. So I'm just going to tuck these wires in. I can use regular tweezers for this. I want to get this stuff in there far enough in that hole. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Now, take my cover. Boom. Done deal. That's great. Oh, that fits perfectly in there. That's so nice. I mean, it's probably a little bit tighter than I would have wanted, but as far as like fitting in, in that area, it's a little bit tougher to get out. So I'm going to make sure I can fish it back out. There we go. So I was able to fish it out. Unfortunately, I won't have to do that very often. I just want to be able to pop it in there and shut that little door. So yeah, once we get those wires out of the way. Tuck it down in there. Yep, that fits perfectly. Closes up nice. Got my magnet here. The magnet is far enough away from my reed switch. That's another reason I mounted the reed switch up here at this end. That is satisfying. Looks great, Mike. Thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that. Thanks, Nick. Or Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. That was Mike chiming in there. Nick is saying, greetings from Argentina. Wow. Good to have you, Nick. That's a new one. Welcome. Thanks for joining in. So, like I said, the reed switch is right about here, right where this little vent is. And that's where I can access it with, I can even probably put the magnet on without even taking the door off because it is exposed right inside. I can pop that magnet in and turn the lights on without having to take this access door off. But this fits really nicely. It closes really nicely and it's flat. But it's, like I said, the magnet's far enough away from the reed switch that it's not turning the lights on. That was one of my main concerns, was making sure that I didn't get too close, because with a really strong magnet, I mean, even from out here, see, I can turn my lights on without even, like, see this? I can turn the lights on without even touching it if I have a strong enough magnet. But because I'll use something pretty small, like this little guy on top here, just like a little 4 millimeter, 4 by 1.5 maybe millimeter magnet, that I can just tuck in there with these bamboo tweezers, pop it in, and turn the lights on. And then when I need to take it out, I just bring this magnet over, and it'll pull that other magnet right out. Just to test that theory, we can do that real quick. I'll take this back off. Use my bamboo tweezers. And because the reed switch is magnetic, it should just, there it goes. I just popped it in and it turned the lights on. So there again, there's my, oops, there we go. There's all my lights. And to get it out, I just use a large magnet like this, pulls it right out, turns the lights off. I love it when a plan comes together. I mean, really. It's so nice. All right, so with that, I'm going to take this off because I don't want to damage it while I'm working. I got a little extra time, so I'm going to sit here and try to figure out how to fix this gap. The glass piece is supposed to fit on here. It fits nicely on this plane and across the top and then down the other side. But on the lower edge here, there's a gap. So if this goes on the way it's supposed to and fits up against the roof there, it's not much. I mean, really, it's not much, but it's either I have a gap or I have no gap. So if I tuck it up as high as it'll go in this direction, pull that glass up and just set it right there. I mean, it's really thin, so it's not going to take much. I'll probably get the thinnest piece of plastic strip that I have. I may even glue it to this bottom edge of the glass and just shape it to this, because that would make it easier than trying to sand it and shape it to this. So I might just take a real thin strip, glue it on here. I may even be able to just take a really thin strip, like not just a flat piece, but a really thin strip, and get it on the bottom there. And then great info. Later, guys. Okay, see you later, dude. Thanks for chopping in. I appreciate you, each and every one of you. So I think that's what I may do, is get my thinnest piece of plastic strip. I've got some really thin stuff here. Now that my soldering iron is cooled down, I'm going to get it out of the way so I can work a little bit more here. Let's see here. What have I got? Oh, yes. This will work. This might actually be... Let's see if I've got any around the same... Ooh, there we go. Now we're talking. Okay, so I think this is what's going to work. This is a piece of evergreen. And I will show you which one I've got here. So this is 0.010 by 0.40. So that is 0.25 millimeter by 1 millimeter strip. And I think that's perfect width, because if I cut a piece, I might be able to just shape it and bend it around. If I do have to go straight across, either way, but it doesn't need to be very thick. It's just got to take up that gap. Worst case, if this isn't thick enough to take up the entire gap, I can double up, and then it would be 0.5 millimeter. I don't think it's 0.5 millimeter gap, so I'd probably be fine just using a small piece of or one strip without having to double up. I've got some other stuff that's thinner and maybe around the same thickness, as far as thinner wide, I mean, and then maybe around the same thickness total, but I think that piece is probably to fit the dimension of that glass piece. It should work out. So I'm just going to put away the rest of my evergreen strips here, and then we'll cut a piece of that out, see if we can't shape that, glue it in place. All right. Okay. All right, so let me get another piece of this out. Don't need much. A couple of inches at the most. So we'll start there. This is really, really thin stuff. And if I do this right, without jacking up my glass piece, I might be able to shape this around that curve, or we just go straight across. Now, it doesn't look like that's going to work. So I may have to do some creative engineering here. This is it'll almost fit all the way across. But if I use a little bit of glue, I might be able to soften it to take on that curve. Also might be able to just bend it by hand, because it is such a thin strip. I'm going to try to get a little bit of that curve and just work it into that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I can always sand the edges of it as well if it's not perfect, because this is a little bit wider than the glass piece, so might be a little bit of overhang there, and then I can sand that down just ever so slightly. Okay, so I got a little bit of a curve into it now. You see that? So that actually is getting closer to the curve of that glass. So, Nick, are you still here? What time is it in Argentina? You're South America, so it's probably, well, it might actually be close to the same time. Oh, it depends on what time zone you're in, huh? So I'm just kind of working this plastic just to kind of give it a little bit more of a curve. It's getting better. It's getting a lot closer. Dude, I never thought of using magnets. Yeah, I don't use them all the time either. But with this, I'm sorry I missed your comment there. Um, I don't, oops, I don't always use them. But the magnetic reed switch, or as far as like you're talking about switching the lights on and off, or you're talking about the access door, or both? Because I don't always use magnets for this kind of thing either, but it just depends on the application. This just seemed like the right way to do this based on the size, the scale of it. Everything is so small, so it just makes it easier to try to. Okay, so I'm working this into a bend, and it's getting closer to fitting that curve. The switch. Oh, the reed switch. Yeah. Yeah, I have a few of them. You can buy them in different sizes. Now, you have to be careful because they are made of glass. In fact, let me pop one out here so you can get a closer look at what it looks like outside of the. Let's see, where are they? There they are. So I'll give you a close-up of what a reed switch looks like before it is installed. Now, this is a 10 millimeter reed switch. I do have some that are 7 millimeter, and what that means, that's just the length of the glass cylinder. So give me a sec here. This is a little bit delicate. They are glass. You have to be careful especially when you're bending the leads, because these leads go into each side. Okay, so this is a reed switch. Now these are normally open, which means that the leads don't touch. They're normally open. It's only when you apply a magnet that they close, and that closes the switch. But again, this one is obviously the lead for this side, and then the other side. So there's no real connection other than the glass holding them together. So if you go to bend these leads at all, you have to be very careful not to stress the glass. I have broken a few of these trying to bend them in place. So typically what I like to do is hold them with whatever pliers, and then just take your hand and manually, don't use the pliers to twist the metal. Just basically use the pliers to hold, like needle nose, to hold the lead, and then bend it by hand. That way you can control how much stress is on the glass itself. This is a 10 millimeter. Like I said, I even have smaller ones in my collection. I wasn't sure whether I was going to use a 10 or a 7 on this. The 10 was fine, and it was also allowed me to have a little bit more distance between the two leads because of the larger glass. So I'll show you what a 7. I mean, this is really tiny. And you can find these on eBay and wherever. So here's a 7. This is really tiny. But again, they're normally open. When you buy them, it'll say NO, which means normally open, or NC for normally closed. And I like the normally open switches. That way they activate when I add magnet to them, and they don't turn off by adding a magnet to them. They turn on, which is what I wanted it to do. So yeah, I've had those for quite a few years. This is the first time I've used a reed switch on a model kit. Geez, probably 6 or 7 years. Don't often get pulled out of the tool bin for those. Where did you get them? eBay, I think. I'm sure there's other places. When I bought them, eBay was one of my go-tos all the time. I'm pretty sure that electronic stores or stores that sell LEDs, you might be able to find them there. Or either that or just Google, 10 millimeter reed switch, normally open reed switch, and look at what your shopping options are. I'm sure there's a lot more. When I bought those, like I said, it's been a while. they may have been a little bit harder to find, but I think there might be easier to find. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I look at my eBay cart right now, one of those save for laters, I'm pretty sure there's reed switches in there. They're just still there. I'm gonna test that theory and look at it right now. Let's see here. So if I go to my eBay and watch list, let's see what's in my watch list. Yep, there we go. 7.1 miniature magnetic reed switch, normally open. I'll send you the link. Okay, Mike. Hey, that's it. It's a set of I think, what does it say? I'm not sure how many goes. 10 pieces for $11 or $12. So that's right. It's still in my watch list all these years. It's been sitting there for probably 2-3 years. Couple dollars shipping, it says, but is there a voltage limit? That is a very good question. I don't know. I use them for low voltage applications, so I never really considered how much they can handle. It's just basically a mechanical switch, so you could probably use up to 9 volts would probably be fine. I don't see why it would be an issue because you're really only just opening and closing a switch. The magnet is probably the more important part because with any switch, the slower you close a switch, it might have a tendency to arc and wear out that switch. And I'm talking about larger switch applications. With a reed switch, you may not even have that problem because it closes so quickly with the magnet. So yeah, that would be the only thing to think about. To be honest, you'd probably get away with using anything in scale model building and not even worry about anything at all because it's not really handling. You're not sending a shit ton of current through it really. So I'm still working this plastic, trying to get that curvature, and it's getting a lot closer to the bottom. See where the bottom curve of that glass, and it's almost matching. So I'm about ready to just glue this on there and then trim it off later. See how it fits. Yes, please. So you want the link, huh? I suppose I can do that right now. Got a few minutes here. So let's go here. And then we go there, and then we go Let's see, what would it be? Instagram chats. Oops, there we go. And let's see. There you go. Send. Okay. So that should be on its way to you. Yep. And those are the small ones. That's the 7.1. Most of the ones I found were 10 millimeter or larger. I bought those 7.1s because I was like, wow, that's unusual. I've never seen anything really that small before then. So I bought them, and I'm not even sure I've even used one yet, quite frankly, because I typically end up using the 10s just because they're just bigger and a little bit easier to manage. But the 7.1s, if you look them up, I'm sure you can find both. Okay, so that looks pretty good where that strip is. I'm going to get ready to try to glue this. I'll try not to screw up my canopy. You are welcome, Mike. You are very welcome. Any day. Anytime. Like I said earlier with the Amazon shop, I'm going to try to go through it. It's going to take some time, but I've got to go through there and start trimming down that list of items and adding more stuff. I've got to go through my list. It allows you to go through the things that you've looked for, and I can add items that way too. So I want to start looking, pulling some of that stuff down that's not available anymore. primarily like the chisels. I'm not even sure you can get them right now, and so they're very hard to find. So I may take those off. I was trying to see if those items would be more available now that COVID's over, or essentially over, and these items are becoming more available. That's why I left them up there. But we'll see if maybe we can get some like reed switches and other cool stuff like that on there too. That way, it's only one place you got to go look. You don't have to hunt around all over different websites. I'm trying to make it easier for the everyday model builder to go on there and find stuff. All right. So I'm really going to try to do this without screwing up my piece of glass here. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit of glue on there. I'm trying to get this to stick. It looks like I've got a pretty good curvature. I may need to add a tiny bit more. Or I think what I'll do is add a little bit to this. All right. Second here. Yep. It's wanting to run away on me. Okay, there we go. Okay. It is not perfect. That's okay too. Because again, I'm just trying to fill a little bit of a gap here. I'm not too concerned about that being perfect, because it's just going to look like a small little, it'll almost look like part of the window frame, and that's fine. Just trying to get a little bit more glue here so it sits down, and the frame is obviously going to be, I'm going to tape off and paint. So this is just going to look like part of the wood, the window frame. There's a slight frame around the glass. So if I can just get this to sit, there we go. Yeah, that looks better. And I can trim those corners off later. Yeah. Okay, a little bit there, a little bit there. Good. Looks like we're golden. I got enough glue on there. I was really worried about a drip or something going down and catching this nice, beautiful, clear piece of plastic. All right. So let that sit there and glue, and then I can trim those edges off, or dry, and trim those edges down, and then do a test fit if we have enough time tonight. If not, then we'll do it. We'll save it for next week. But by that time, I should have the windows glued on, and we'll be moving on to something even better, painting the whole, the body or one of the figures or something like that. So, yeah, getting back to the reed switches, it's kind of a nice way. They're compact and very small, which makes it easier, I think, than in some cases than a mechanical switch. Like a regular push button or toggle switch. They're way less obtrusive, and you basically don't even see them. I mean, if you look in here, you would never know there was a switch in there. The battery's tucked in nice and tight. I don't even really need to take it out anymore until the battery needs to be replaced. And I can, like I said, I got this little porthole here that's this little vent that goes back to the engine there. and that's where the reed switch is. I just drop my magnet in there, and it pops right onto that reed. Because it's magnetic, it doesn't fall in and just disappear. It goes right on and sticks right to that reed switch and turns on my lights. That's some gangster shit, running extra thin on a clear canopy. I know, I was shaking. I was so nervous. I was just using a little bit at a time, man. I just like, God, I don't want to mess up this canopy. Then I got to figure out how would I fix that, right? You have to get out the polishing compound. I mean, everything's repairable, but see, now that this is actually a little softer because of the glue, I can almost take those corners and just kind of finesse them around a little bit and fit that canopy even better. That's what I was hoping for. It was a thin enough strip that once I hit it with some glue, it would soften it. But I can sand the rest. I just really want to take up that gap. So now that I've got that stuck on there enough, I'm going to go ahead and just clip off the ends. Even though I'm not fully done, the trimming I'll have to trim more of it later. At least now I can take this and do a test fit. All right, so flip this over. Just pop this on. Actually, I'm just going to leave it right there because it sits nice and flat. Yeah, I might need to add one more because I think if I pull it back, yeah, there's still a slight gap. So that's fine. I've got more of that plastic. So what I'm going to do is take one more strip and I'll just laminate this, the one that I added here, and double it up. So we're going to take this piece back out, cut another strip off. And I'll do the same thing with that one. I will kind of shape it. Oh, come on. I can see the one I cut. I'm trying to grab a hold of it. There we go. And I will bend it again, and then that way I can just laminate it to the other one. And that should do it. So I'm going to keep working this one here until I get that same kind of bend to it. It's twisting against. See, I could bend it the other way very easily. I'm going against the grain here. That's why it's a little bit harder to do this. But as long as you keep working it, it'll eventually take on that curve that you want. I'm just almost stretching it, really, because it's such a thin piece, I can manipulate it. Got to bounce. Okay, good job. All right, Mike. Good seeing you, buddy. See you next time. Take care. All righty. We're getting down there too. Just a few more minutes. We'll finish this one up. Let's see if I can get this glued on there before we go. I'm going to stay on a little bit longer since we had a little bit of a technical issue there, and I lost probably a good 5 minutes of the stream, if not more. All right, let's see how that fits. Yeah, that looks good. All right, I got enough of a bend there. I think I can get that to fit nicely. And get the glue back out, and we'll laminate this one on to the back of that one. So once again, I got to take it nice and easy here. Just going to get this ready to grab. All right, nice and easy. Okay. Oh boy. Come on. Almost got it. It's just, there we go. Just trying to get it to place. All right, add a little bit more glue here. That should be able to bond it. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I got a double thickness there. So now it's 0.5 millimeter instead of 0.25. Okay, cool. I'll just let that sit and bond. For a second or two, and then I can trim those edges off, and we'll check and do another test fit. See how that looks. So we're almost there. We're getting there. A little bit of a gap fill. I'm not sure if it's in the design because this is the first Mache kit that I've ever built, so I've never experienced it. I'm not sure if it's just something that is inherent in the design because this middle piece can only really fit in one spot. It's notched in. It really doesn't go up or down anymore. So I don't know if or what I did anything wrong when I was trying to glue that on. It really okay. But at least it was something I saw before I got too deep. It's trying to fall off on me. Okay. Yeah, I may need to sand this a little bit. That's okay. I'd rather have a little bit to take off. It looks pretty good now. So there we go. Just a little bit of extra thickness there in that front. Once I sand that and shape it a little bit, it'll fit a little bit better because it's kind of sticking out the sides a little bit. So I think it looks pretty good because right now it looks like the gap in the back is taken up, and I think I've got enough there in the front that it'll go away just nicely. All right. So we got quite a bit done tonight, even though we had some technical problems, but we're all good. We're all good now. In the end, we prevailed. All right, everybody. We're going to call this one a show. Hopefully next week I'll have all the canopies issues managed. I'll tape it off, mask it off so I can start painting the body, and I gotta paint the legs, and then the figure, and then we're good to go. So let's move back to this one. Back up to my face. Anyway, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you for joining every single time you guys come in. Believe me, it's awesome to see the support I get every week. Check out the Amazon shop if you can. Like I said, I'm going to keep trying to upgrade. I know I haven't done much in the last couple of weeks with the holidays and stuff, but I'm going to get on there and I'm going to start trimming that list down and adding some new items and stuff like that. So trying to make it easy for anybody that wants to find supplies and stuff like that, or a model kit or two. So either way, See you, Tyler. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate you. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Be good humans. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, part 6. Moving right along. All right. Peace out, guys. We'll see you.